Hello and welcome to Building Your T-Shirt Empire. My name's Cole and with me as always is Gavin. Let's jump right into the news. So, in fashion news, Lane 7 Apparel has just released a new product. It's the Heavy Pigment Tee. This tee is unique because it's made with a heavy pigment dye, giving it a vibrant and long-lasting color. It's been made with 100% ring-spun cotton, making it soft and durable. The Heavy Pigment Tee comes in a variety of sizes and colors, and there's pretty much something for everyone. It's a great replacement for somebody looking for a tee competitive with like comfort colors, and some of these colors they've come out with are fantastic. Gavin?
So, in tech news, the company Kornit Digital has released a new platform. This new platform, they're calling it the Apollo platform. They also revealed an enhanced version of their Atlas Max Plus. The Apollo platform is a revolutionary direct-to-garment printing platform that offers never-seen-before speed and efficiency. The enhanced Atlas Max Plus, on the other hand, offers improved print quality and color vibrancy. These new offerings from Kornit Digital are set to take the digital printing industry by storm.
Very cool. Moving on to some sustainability news, Sheep Ink has unveiled a t-shirt with a negative carbon footprint. Yes, you heard me right. This t-shirt is made from a blend of merino wool and biodegradable nylon, and it's carbon negative, which Sheep Ink offsets by using more carbon than it produces to manufacture the actual item. This is a significant step towards sustainable fashion and a great example of how companies can help fight climate change in their business.
In a tragic turn of events, a union leader at Gildan, one of the world's largest apparel manufacturers, was killed in a shooting in Honduras. The company and authorities are investigating the incident. It's sad to see something like this happen to a member of our community. Our thoughts are with the family and colleagues of the victim during this difficult time.
And on a lighter note, Minuteman Press is celebrating its 50th anniversary. The company, which started as a small printing business, has grown into a global franchise with hundreds of locations around the world. So here's to another 50 years of success, Minuteman Press.
And finally, you do not want to miss Shirt Lab's annual in-person event in New Orleans during the last week of July. At this Shirt Labs event, shop owner gets a unique opportunity to learn from industry expert, respected professionals from other fields, and network with other shop owners. One of their speakers will be Mike McCallowitz, the author of Profit First. It sounds like it will be a great event.
And that concludes this week's news. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell your mom about us so that we can share this across the industry. Today we have a very exciting guest. It's Bruce Ackerman from Printavo. Bruce, tell us what you've been up to lately. I know you guys have some really interesting updates about the industry in general.
I think the normal economic cycle for print shops has been a bit funky since COVID, right? Ignoring just the political side and all that stuff and mess and everything for a second, it's very interesting, right? You kind of stop an economy and then open it back up and then see what happens. And it's like this crazy swing, right? It's what they call the bullwhip effect and how that affects supply chain around the world. And so the question was, how has this been affecting the screen printing industry? And then also, what are different vendors seeing? I started having calls with Ryanette, Minar, Multicraft, just like anybody who can see volume of flow and orders, what they're seeing. And I feel like I didn't get anything helpful. I mean, everybody has their perspective, but what's difficult is everybody has a different segment of customers. Like Ryanette has a really good segment of getting shops started and continuing to grow. M&R seems to skew a little bit to bigger shops, multiple presses, very heavy international influence. Some distributors may be also very regional. So that's sort of what they're seeing. It was like, yeah, I mean, people's pipelines are looking good, or things are slowing down, or, we're worried about recession fears, but that hasn't necessarily hit other than the tech scene. I don't see much slowdown outside of tech. So that's just where I was starting to spend some time as to how can we figure out those economic cycles and things that are happening to help shops. But even then, to be honest, it doesn't mean that it affects you because everybody is in their own world as well.
Yeah.
Like Gavin with Steps.io, you probably are still growing a ton because you're smaller and there's a lot of opportunity. Or I don't know about you, Cole, but like West Coast may be very different than someone selling to schools in the Midwest. So
one thing that I saw as far as the markets getting affected was marketing budgets because of those recession fears changed. So we didn't lose customers, but some of our customers downgraded the blanks or they limited the amount of free giveaways. We did see that, and that was specifically like marketing companies.
interesting. And were those agencies or were those
It's
larger
like
companies just in general?
Most of the corporations, especially for live events, I think mainly because of the insurance, almost always outsource it to an agency. And then the agency will only have like one client, but that one client is giving them millions of dollars. And so though we saw those budgets get adjusted without actually us losing the clients. And so that's like one thing that I've seen, but that all was kind of based on people just assuming they'd have a bad year and not reality.
Like you said, we are a growing company, so the trend, we're creating the trend now. So we don't have something to compare it against. So what I saw was a couple of months back, a few of my customers, and our customers are reoccurring customers. They came to us. It was like, hey, we're struggling. Like we need to be, we need to either be downgraded to a lower plan because right now I'm just not sure like what the next couple of months are. And that happened a couple of months ago, but those same customers right now are super busy. So it was a little bit of fear.
When was that? Like, do you remember?
Yeah. So right now we are in June, right? So if we back 2-3 months, so that puts us March time. That was actually right around when Atlantic City Impressions. I actually met a couple of our customers that was in Atlantic City, and it was like, hey man, I don't know what's gonna happen. What ended up happening, I guess, was good because they wanted to make the change to go down. They didn't end up actually making the change to go down. Things actually changed kind of quick.
What type of businesses were they in? Like industries wise?
One shop in particular, they have two rock autos, and they do a lot of just like movies, and they service more like the movie scenes or whatever based on the artwork that we seen. Not a lot of schools or anything like that. More like high creative stuff that this particular customer was on. We did have another shop that was just like a community shop. They just do plumbers or whatever. That was out of New Jersey. That shop was also right now. It seems everything has stabilized from what we saw, from what I'm seeing.
But Bruce, you're the data king since there's however many shops attached to Printavo. Have you guys been able to pull like functional data out of that and see sales flows?
There's a couple of findings that came out of this that I think are interesting. There's 3 basic charts that I find interesting. One is average order sale by month. So essentially, what is the average order size, right? And you can see that like lately over the last 6 months or so, if it's floating around $700, which I'd be very curious as to how you compare with this, Cole, too. So here's what's fascinating about this. Notice here, like kind of like right after like early 2021, there's like this new trajectory of order size. Now, Stephen Farag pointed out, which I think is a good point, of just general inflation and everything costing more, people charging more for items. And so that could potentially drive this up. And from before, it was a sort of a steadier increase, right? Like maybe like a 3% or so. And then now it's like very, it's a lot sharper pointing up. The other one, the average total sales per account by month. This is fascinating because this is essentially showing on average, shop is probably doing about 80,000 a month, on average, right? This is the way to normalize this is you can use this to find trends in month by month data. So for example, January to Feb, a bit slow this year, right? If you go back, January, Feb last year, okay, a bit slow. But then notice how March to April kind of took a bit of a dive down from March. It was like March was a pretty fast shoot up. April, a bit slower than normal. When you look at previous years, it tended to be a climb up into, continuing up. So a little bit of an exaggerated fall in April. Interesting, right? Hard to deduce a ton of information from, but interesting. The one that's unfortunately not loading that I have to refix is average order quantity by month. The pre-COVID number for this was around 115 items per order. Okay, so that essentially means that, like, on average, an order size has about 115 items in it. The thought was, and I heard this again and again, digital is going to become so important because people's order quantities are coming down and they're just ordering more frequently. Maybe in retail and like very large, Nike stuff and this and that. But for the everyday print shop, what I was seeing is that in fact, average order quantities after COVID have jumped about 20%. So a lot of people were ordering more per order. Now, this was slowly coming back down. And this was starting to slow up. So it like had that, remember everybody saw that chart of e-com and like all the online stuff people were ordering, and then it's starting to simmer back down. Sort of similar here in this chart.
This was amazing.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
awesome.
that it's amazing to see the real data. One thing about the average shop size, how is that calculated? Because I would assume you have shops in there doing, whatever, $4 or $5 million a year, but they stayed on Printavo. And then you also have shops that are 1 and 2 man operations. How do you think that normally breaks out for your users?
I tried in the data. I'm excluding orders above $100,000 and only in the US. So I'm trying to exclude like mega, orders that may skew the data a bit. Median obviously would be a bit better. That may be like a V3 or something to dig into more. And
is this
I
data
just wanna
public
quickly-
right now?
Yeah. Here, I'll give you a link.
Yeah, awesome.
And
Because I could
what's
check in on this all the time.
Yeah,
Might keep
you can
me
put this in
sane.
the comments below, so anybody can go to it and check it out whenever they want. ChatGTP helped me write this.
Really?
Yeah, so I was writing the SQL and like figuring it out, and it was so complicated, and so I tried it, and I was like, write me a SQL statement that compared this to this and included this data, and here's the structure of our table. And it gets me a page long of this language that accesses the database. And then I had to like fill it in and fix some things, but saved me hours and hours of time.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how powerful it is. We're not even close to seeing what it will do eventually. Like, it's going to be
Yeah,
unbelievable.
we're in inning 1. Gavin will
Yeah.
be an AI bot like next year, and we'll just be talking to a bot instead. You could just like be hanging out on the beach.
Could you imagine a mock-up bot? I feel like you probably could do something like that. Upload an image and then train the bot on placing the image on blanks that it pulls from the SNS Activewear API. And then you could literally type in things like, center chest placement or oversized or left chest or whatever, and not even have people drag and drop it. I mean, a mock-up is relatively easy to create, but for it to be mass produced, especially in something like SEPs, and you could just knock out like 30 mock-ups in a minute and a half because the AI is doing it itself, that would be crazy.
Damn, Cole, don't give away our business idea.
I mean, there's that. I think art generation could be cool. Like if people don't have ideas. It's funny. I was just like brainstorming a ton of AI stuff. I saw this tweet the other day that was, you can talk to data to get information from instead of have to create reports. So that was fascinating. Can you create a chart for the sales this year compared to last year by month? And you essentially connect your data to it, which if you can right now it's just you're uploading a CSV file. And then you take that and then it'll actually create the report for you. So, I mean, pretty wild, especially when we've only been hearing about this for the last, 6 months? 10 months? It's not like it's been like 5 years or something.
Well, and the plugins are really interesting because now you can do like the Wolfram Alpha plugin in ChatGPT. And so everything that ChatGPT was bad at, like calculations of different statistics or whatever, is now underpinned by this like giant database that's been good at it for years. And so not only can it give you answers, but it can actually plot them all graphically. And so you can do something like dump your CSV and then turn on that plugin, and it's amazing what it can output.
A lot more like meat on the bone compared to Bitcoin and crypto and NFTs and all that craze.
God.
Tell us how to sell a company. I think you're one of the most successful sales in the industry as far as people I know. And I know that we can't go too deep into a lot of it, but I mean, what was kind of the general decision-making process and the opportunity for you?
and I had been really focused on this company and still am very focused on it, but like for 10 years or so. And there was absolutely a point where we needed to be able to take it up a notch. Like our team felt it, being able to get management, and really fleshed out. So we have VP of marketing, VP of success, VP of sales, operations, finance, all that stuff handled. I think customers, I think you guys felt it. It's like roadmaps hard to execute on. We're not scaling products as well as we could. We're getting stuck in sort of the weeds and minutia of it. We're spread thin with things like stores and like new functionality and then maintaining existing stuff. And like a combination of these just takes a lot of money.
Right.
It takes money and it takes experience to handle. And I think we could have gotten there over a longer period of time. Anybody could figure out that's leading a business over time. I was reinvesting so much into the business. Engineering, these leadership roles, very expensive. And so there was just a point where it was like, okay, for us to get to double the size that we're at, we can either, partner with someone and try to raise a small amount of capital. We can go for a bigger partnership and someone take more of a majority stake in the business, or, you keep pushing on where you're at. And so, we went with the second option of partnering with some larger firms that were able to take a larger stake in the business. And when you start working on the business, you may want to financially de-risk yourself too over time, right? You also want that experience to help you. And lastly, you want it to be in good hands and continue to help pushing it forward. And I was still very interested in the industry and wanting to be and participate in that. They wanted to take it to the next level and do all those things, invest in the roadmap, invest in engineering, invest in the people thing. And so it was a really good marriage there of being able to do it together. The payments thing, which was always on our roadmap, but we weren't able to execute on before because of cost. So we always wanted to Printavo payments because we couldn't do things like ACH. Like Stripe just wouldn't let us do that. We were capped at $5,000 for an ACH transaction. So
which is the whole point of ACH.
Exactly. And so it's like, oh, gosh, well, that was the third requested thing on there. On our ideas board, we wanted to do in-person point of sales. So there's just so many things we wanted to be able to tackle that it required this sort of professionalization of the business to get to the next level. And so it's really cool to see that work. I'm also learning a lot. We're able to partner really well just because I can be very product focused, industry focused. They can be very strategically focused and take off a lot off my plate as well. They put in James, who's a really good CEO. I learned a lot from him. I talk about and the PE firm. There's a lot of big bad PE, but I feel like this industry we're in, we have a lot to learn about running a bigger business, and me included. And it's really cool to learn that, to be able to apply it as well. So hopefully that was a decent enough answer.
It was a good
there was awesome. A lot that was just on my mind that I was just trying to dump everything out, and maybe it got disorganized.
No, like you said, you've been building this for 10 years and you've actually created a roadmap and a model for a bunch of people to follow. If you could just kind of think back a little bit, those 10 years, if you had to say, what were some of the most exciting things that you've done, if you want to use that word exciting, and also at the same time, what were some of the most thing that hurt it the most, building this thing, or some of the toughest thing that you had to do in those 10 years?
I think my biggest memories for sure are first customer. There's something exciting about smaller sales, I think, because it's more tangible, maybe you remember your first, $50 or your first $1,000 order or something like that. I remember our first customer is $20 or $30 a month. That was incredible after, building for 6 months, just toiling away and adding new functionality, making it free, making it paid, talking to people, getting feedback. I think there was a time too when we were 4 people in a room like this, and just huddled around the table. It was, me, Peter, who runs technology, Anthony and Adam, who run support and sales. And it was just this little group, and that was really cool as a memory. It's interesting hearing sometimes shop owners say, yeah, man, I just kind of wish I was 2-3 years ago. Those are good times. And you sort of want to speed past it because you just want to keep growing. And then I think, honestly, it's just recently, just seeing the roadmap really start to being able to be executed on. It probably took a year to sort of imagine you have like a cable, like, you know, your headphones, when you take your headphones out of your pocket, and it's just like this big ball of wires, and you got to take time to undo it and lay it all out. It took about a year to do that, and to say, okay, all right, there's a kink here. I need to structure a team here. There's a kink here. I need to do this, and then to be able to, okay, so here's our plan. Do we have a plan now for the next year? Great, we have that. Let's start executing on it, and then seeing the execution for the next 3 months. Like, it's crazy how long those changes take to happen, but seeing that to really start to execute is really cool. It's definitely proud of the team.
So, I mean, speaking about that executing, especially in the beginning when you were a team of 4, how did you approach bringing on those first clients? Was it trade shows? Was it direct outreach over the phone? Like, how do you feel like if you were going to do a whole new startup, maybe without money, how would you acquire those first sales quickly?
For me, it was being intertwined into the community as early as possible. You guys probably remember t-shirt forums, like the actual t-shirtforums.com.
Yeah.
That was where I hung out. I'd comment. I'd, be in there, linking people, giving feedback, connecting people, whatever, just being a part of the community. And I think that's probably the best way to launch any business, is just, where are your customers hanging out at? And go spend time there and like just help them. I wouldn't even try to sell them. It's just, oh, okay, you need help with this. You're searching for that. Here you go. And then asking for feedback. For Seps.io, for example, like your first customer, a friend or hanging out at a trade show, or what?
It was, if you want to call it market research. When I had the idea, I was like, okay, so this could be something. It wasn't super clear yet. It didn't even have a brand at the time yet, right? Yo, if anything, I called you. I called you. I made a list of some people that I wanted to just get their feedback on it, and you was part of that list. And I had called somebody, just, hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing. I just really wanted to hear, like, would you actually buy it? Like, if I did this thing? So I called a screen printer. Yeah, so I called a screen printer that I knew. That screen printer was like, I already got a setup already. I think I know somebody that needs this right away, because they're used to the model that you have, and I don't think they're happy right now. So they made that connection, and so it was me reaching out to somebody I knew that reached out to that connected me with somebody else. And as soon as I made that I made that call to that person, plus I had already met that person at a trade show anyway, it kind of just picked up what I was doing anyway, because I had run my shop. And I was at the events. I had met a bunch of people. So it felt a little bit more natural. I wasn't like super cold or whatever. When I made that first call to that person, I was like, hey, somebody told me about your situation. I'm starting to do this. I was like, shut up. Take my money right now. Shut up. Like, I don't even care. Like, I've heard a little bit about you. Just like, if you could fix this, dude, don't even worry. Just like, I have such a problem right now. So I was like, oh shit, I think we are probably onto something right now. So just because of that first conversation.
It's kind of interesting. I feel like, and I'm sure there's many ways to skin the cat, but the one that I've discovered is that if people like you and just like being around you because, either you're nice to them, or usually it's like you've created some sort of bond, whether you help them in a pinch or you gave them advice or whatever, and you can offer the service that helps them. Like, you need both of those to get to really close it and keep them. So you could just sell the service, but I guarantee you anybody could find the service. Like, there's competitors for anything, anywhere, your car, your house, whatever it is. Like, we had this electrical issue this morning, and the electrician will just hop on FaceTime right away, and he's not going to just charge me or something. I could find an electrician anywhere, but that, personal relationship together is so crucial. So of course, where I'm going back every single time, and he's not the cheapest, but he'll show up and he'll jump on and help me out.
You're 100% right. Just almost treating it like my approach when I first started was, I thought it was going to take off. I coined this thing that's called print friends, but it didn't take off or whatever. That was my mindset, just doing this for people I had known, like friends around the community. And that creates a different vibe. It's not like a money grab, right? If it's not a money grab, people could feel that. People could feel that you're trying to help them. If something goes wrong, they're more forgiving. And also just, hey, we're starting something. I don't have all the answers. Just like, I literally was telling people, hey, in the beginning, just trust us, but be, just know, like, we're just starting, right? Of course, I want the business, but it was just more just to put enough people through the motion, build my confidence up, build the team confidence up. Once I knew we had like the team, like a few key people that was confident, that was my main thing, like really just getting those guys confident.
Very cool. Bruce, I know that I especially in the beginning, had to put together a team like Gavin's saying. Before maybe you hired additional people for the staffing, how did you approach that? Finding people that were potentially highly paid or at least, over 50K, like an investment of a hire. How did you find them and give them some room to trust them, but also, they didn't initially know everything that you knew. How do you approach that kind of onboarding?
Yeah, so two things. One, my view of those early first 5 people are so important because they sort of set the foundation. When you bring in number 6, they're going to look at 1 through 5 and say, okay, here's how we operate. And that could be good, that can be okay, or that can be bad, right? It's like, oh, everybody comes in 15 minutes late. All right, 15 minutes always turns into 30 minutes and so on. Or, oh, everybody's on their phone, right? But if it's like, oh, wow, this guy like picks stuff up off the floor randomly or whatever, like it creates an environment around it. So those are really important. And it wasn't perfect. Like I definitely had to let go. I was probably 50% in hiring. Half of them are still here, which is great. Half of them are not here because they were either bad or because they, just moved on to other stuff. That was one thing. And then for the training part, I just really immersed them. I remember I closed the door one day and I was just like, I need to build out this training program. So my thinking was, I want to not be here physically and then be able to be onboarded. That's not going to happen. I'll be there and we'll be hand-holding and do all that stuff. But I want there to be so much video and written content and everything. And that took probably literally a day of just writing and typing and just recording a Loom video, putting in there, keep writing and everything. It's a living document. It's always changing, but that's like our handbook essentially. And people will go through that to get set up and can watch everything. And then the last thing is just immersing people into the space. So taking, people to trade shows. We took everybody to print shops and they spent a half day there and we had lunch. And so we got deep into how screen printing works. We used to send everybody back when Ryanet had those classes, how to screen print class. So you'd sit there for, 2 days, I think it was, and then just learn how to do it, right? So that you could be able to speak the language to people. So yeah, we're just trying to overinvest in it. It's like, it's hard to mentally justify spending a lot of time or money there, but then it's easier if like, oh, I need to buy this piece of equipment or computer or something for them to use. It's like, yeah, that's a couple $1,000s at least. Like, why couldn't you spend, $1,000 or something on someone's mental acuity to be able to execute? I don't know. I feel like that investment pays a lot of dividends so that you can not be as much of a job and be more like standoffish. I feel like, you know what it is? It's like if the end goal is for you to generate good income for yourself as an owner and not physically be there 60 hours a week, if the goal is to be there 20 hours, 15 hours a week and generate a good salary for yourself and family and for your team and stuff, all right, cool. Then how do you build up into that? And there's no like hidden secret. It's just like good people, good training, good pricing, and keep a margin and keep growing.
When you were starting, did you feel like there was resistance to the software because people were used to like, I don't know, FreshBooks or QuickBooks, and they just kind of were like, oh, we figured it out because we use a whiteboard and we use QuickBooks and it's good enough? And how did you overcome that and kind of try to show shops, hey, we can do this in a more efficient manner and it overcomes some of your current difficulties?
It was an interesting time in 2012 or so because the cloud hadn't fully hit this industry. It wasn't integrated. It wasn't intertwined into our space yet. Adobe Creative Suite, I don't remember really being around then. I remember going to a trade show and right, which, some people may have ripped and
most
all
shops.
That, but like, yeah, allegedly. But that was an interesting time when I remember being at a trade show and I'd get I don't trust the cloud thing. And I was just like, holy crap, everything outside of our space is totally starting already to move it. Your email is in the quote unquote cloud, but I'm trying to convince someone to change to the cloud and to this. So fortunately, I think Adobe mass educated everybody that, oh, this is sort of the new wave of how you have to buy software now. You can't go buy a disk and install it and then expect updates and then that's it. Now it's shifting to you pay some sort of monthly amount and there's different plans, and this is how it works. I think if we were too early in that, it would have been harder, right? I mean, there's companies that are built on like on-premise server software. That is ShopWorks, for example. Like that's difficult to change when the internet comes. You have to rewrite everything to be able to adapt. So it's either you stay that way or you move on, and that's just luck, honestly. And then the other part is just having a really good implementation team. We've got a really good success team. We've got Matt Marcotte who does implementations, and so just folks who know the space and are able to take time to do that.
So now with the new investments coming in, with the team being so much larger in present day, and also with like kind of the rise of Printavo, what is like kind of the future for this new company looking like? And what kind of things do you think we could expect in the next year, 2 years that you guys are working towards?
So Inksoft has technically now 3 products underneath the brand. So it's Printavo, Inksoft, and Graphics Flow. There's a little bit of overlap, but for their core products are different. So, you've got shop management at Printavo, you've got online stores like e-commerce and websites at Inksoft, and then you've got art generation and approvals in Graphics Flow. Graphics Flow being a bit newer, I actually think it's pretty exciting there. Anybody that doesn't have art, you're Googling on Pinterest or whatever or Vector Easy or something to get art. But this thing has got like really good modern art that's categorized as well. So people can say, oh, hey, can you give me this, but with this text or this or that? And then, of course, the people that have art, Seps.io, right? And or like if you have in-house, you can redraw it and go from there. Like if we can get them so that they play nice really well together. So it's like, okay, people are using them all separately. Great. Now, how do we integrate them? And so that's a big plan for later this year. And then so they talk, right? Oh, you run a bunch of e-commerce stores. Great. Those collapse down into Printavo and you can manage that order and handle the fulfillment and everything and do that. So integration is definitely the next step.
I mean, integration as in you can just plug them in as plugins, or do you think that we'll see like a $4.99 bundle where it's a little bit cheaper than all of them separately?
There's actually a bundle price now where, if you're buying multiple, you can get discounts on them. Maybe $100. I can't remember the exact pricing, but you definitely get a discount pricing if you buy multiple products. But the lightweight integration of the data flowing from them is really the real core, right? So Graphics Flow, let's say you pick art, and in graphicsflow.com, it's kind of like Canva where you can edit it now in place. So you could change a high school name or you could change whatever name. That can then be attached to a Printavo quote, right? And then you manage your fulfillment there. Or the Inksoft store, you manage that and you close a fundraiser. All those orders are combined together and put into a Printavo order, right? And managed on through your workflow there. Or it can create a store from Printavo. Those are those lightweight integrations. I wouldn't say it's all going to be one thing together, but the lightweight integration is what they're building out the building blocks to right now, which is a lot of API work.
Very cool, yeah. Because the thing that I was on Inksoft and Printavo simultaneously, and the reason I couldn't ever leave Printavo was the backend was so much better. Like for shop management, Printavo had stuff that Inksoft just didn't take as a priority. But then the front end of Inksoft was the exciting part because they were so good at presenting kind of a customer-facing website platform. So yeah, I think those playing nice in the future, or even as much as they're doing it now, is a really good plan. Yeah. Because the thing that I've always wanted more than anything is basically custom ink in a box. If I can integrate, the SNS Activewear API, show all the customers the blank, show upload options, have them do their own mockup essentially, have them place an order, and then it goes basically through the Printavo workflow. That's always kind of been my dream software that at the moment hasn't been fully realized, but it seems like you're kind of working towards that end.
Yeah, I mean, that's where it's going. I'd say there's a balance, right, of software that just gets so complicated because of how much it does. And then like, how do you kind of create these more individual modules, right? It's like Adobe. Like if Adobe had like 5 different tools that were actually one tool, it'd be so complicated to learn, right? Like if Illustrator and Photoshop and what's like the writing one for making books and PDFs and stuff, like Acrobat and
InDesign,
like
or
some of these InDesign, InDesign, right? If those are all one, but they've made it so that they lightly touch each other around the like cloud saving, right? And you have the files together, and you can easily import files and file types into each other, so they play nice. And yeah, it's an interesting balance, right? I mean, it's like for a shop, if you did everything everybody asked or were able to get that product or service, it's just hard to really have, I mean, you just be all over the board. You just be impossible to grow. So
yeah. Very cool. So what do you feel like your new role is, and what do you plan on doing moving forward in the industry with Printavo and then maybe outside of Printavo?
I'm really passionate about doing stuff like this. Like I love making that data was really fun, figuring out research there. I do a lot of interesting, just different projects, some strategic stuff. For example, helping with the content marketing team still and continuing to manage that, meeting and chatting with other companies in the space, being at the trade shows internally. Like for example, hey guys, how do we grow sales, or how should we message this, or how do we work, or this product or that product especially is another big area. Just helping, obviously you want the team to be able to own stuff, and then hey, let me shape it so it goes more this way. So there's a lot of different projects that just constantly come up. For example, a lot of shops are trying and working with Kevin Baumgart, for set sales to try to do more outbound or active sales. We want to try to do that, right? So we don't have a program. How do we be able to set up that program and do all this? I could spike and test on some stuff, for a week and see how that goes and get back, right? So I can move really quick. I know the people to reach out to and to get things done. Those types of things are super helpful, and what I'm passionate about as well. So that's fun.
Very cool. Well, thanks so much for your time. Is there anything else you want to plug or let people know is coming up, like for events?
I don't know. What is the next big show you think? Is it Fort Worth or is it Printing United? No, they're kind of right next to each other.
Well, Fort Worth is the closest one. Printing United is probably the biggest one, right?
Yeah. So those should be cool. We'll definitely be there. Print Hustlers Conf, having some scheduling issues, but Made Lab is working on that to help pull that off. The target is in November, but still pending, obviously, announcing it early, like first weekend of November. So that'll be exciting, but TBD on exact date and time. And yeah, we've got a lot of stuff coming out the pipeline. Printavo's working on purchasing and a whole new module there, and check-in finally. So that'll be really cool. They're rolling out search right now, so you may have seen that in your dashboard. If not, you will soon. So way better to search purchasing. And then the next big one will be reporting. So finally can like totally revamp that, just in case you restart a shop, Gavin, and need that.
Hey,
shop?
What book
I hear the labor's cheaper.
Before you go, what book are you reading right now?
Best business books for this year.
How to win friends and influence people.
Yeah, right. Biggest one that I was actually going through was Traction, and then I have High Output Management is my next to start. So that's one.
What's that one? High Output Management?
High Output Management. Yeah, by Andrew S. Grove. I think it was the CEO of Intel. Steven sent this to me to check out. That's pretty cool. I'm excited to go through that. I mean, I think Traction is such a good one to always just constantly revisit. Yeah. And I was looking at like the EOS certification and things. Very expensive though. But yeah, that book, I feel like I've gifted so many people that book. I just feel like it's so powerful when you start to like lose control of everything that's going on and running in too many different directions.
3 years ago, was it you that introduced this book to the industry? I know I heard it from you.
We talk about that one and Profit First a lot, I feel like, which are like two mega important
I just want to say thank you, man, for putting that out there into the space. I got a hold of that book, Traction. I've read that book probably like 20 times already. And that's what I run my business on. That's what I do a lot of things.
That's awesome.
I had all of this like management experience because I did management before this, but like it was all over the place. Yeah. And just Traction just kind of give you that system to just like make things super impactful and just like, and also make it simple too, right? So thank you for putting that out there. That book, literally my favorite book.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm trying to get Gino Wickman, the author, to talk, but he
sold the company. He don't own it anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he does work for. He's like you. He's like. I mean, I went through and watched a bunch of his YouTube. I looked into the EOS certification. I was just into his. He does a conference. That's probably where you could meet him at or whatever.
Ah, cool. I got to watch some interviews with him.
Well, thanks again for your time, and
appreciate
thanks to
having me on,
everyone.
guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks to everyone listening. Please like and subscribe and share and comment and tell your mother about us. And we'll see you next week. Bye.